UFC Atlanta salaries are out. And the question is, how did Rose Namajunas top the card in terms of most money made? How did she make more than Kamaru Usman? We'll explain. Also, Hamza Chimaev is back in the news, and there's one middleweight fighter who is backing Dricus du Plessis. Believe it or not, there are several fighters that are backing Dricus du Plessis. Also, Francis Ngannou could be making a comeback to the UFC. Is he too old now at 38? I don't know. We'll get into these topics and more next.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA Podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
Welcome to the TCMMA Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cross. We got a lot to discuss today. 3 big topics in the world of the UFC, among many big topics, right? It never ends. It always continues. And the first topic we got for you today is UFC Atlanta salaries. Rose Namajunas tops the card at 300 grand. Oh, I'm sorry, 500 grand. Oof, take home pay. 300 grand went to Kamaru Usman, who was number 2. Then you had Cody Garbrandt get 275 off a loss. So how did Rose Namajunas top the card? Well, she made 250, and then the win bonus was 250, right? So that's 500 grand. Kamaru Usman had 300,000 to show with no win bonus. Now, if he gets the win bonus, he makes 600 grand. So that's kind of odd that most fighters structured in their contract have a win bonus, but in this situation, Kamaru Usman did not, and who knows why? Maybe the UFC wanted to give him 200 grand with a 200 grand win bonus, so that would be like 400, but instead he'll take the 300 guaranteed. Is he shortchanging himself? Is there something we don't know? Who knows? But the bottom line is Rose Namajunas topped the card with 500K, and that's a big payday for Rose Namajunas. And for a lot of these fighters, there's a lot at stake, right? Like if she doesn't win, she only gets half that amount. So there's a big motivation to win your fight. This is also why the UFC, when they offer fighters 3 fights a year, sometimes the fighters say no. Right? So imagine you got 6 fights in your contract. Let's just say even number, you're making 200 grand per fight. That's 1.2 mil, right? But if you get the win bonus, you get 2.4 mil. So sometimes it's in the fighter's best interest to say, nah, I don't want that opponent. Maybe it's going to be a very close fight. It's not that they don't believe. I mean, fighters believe they can be anyone on the planet. So it's not that, right? But when money is on the line, that's when the true colors come out for everybody, right? Oftentimes, you might think this fighter win or that fighter is going to win, but are you willing to put your money on it? Right? That's why odds are so critical, and we take note of them because odds are what people are putting money on. And in this case, for UFC fighters, they say no, then go into the media and say someone else turned down the fight, when in actuality, they turned down the fight because they want that win bonus. So Rose Namajunas gets it 500K, but just a little insight there as to why fighters turn down fights. It's because they want that win bonus. Kamaru Usman doesn't have one, so he's not inclined to probably turn down a lot of fights. And he went in there and smashed Buckley this past Saturday. Moving forward, Francis Ngannou could potentially be returning to the UFC. That's what the people are talking about, and they're talking about this because Francis Ngannou was at the weigh-ins with Kamaru Usman, right? He was there cage side, not like in his corner, but in the fans. You saw him there as Usman made his way to the octagon. So this is bringing speculation that Ngannou could eventually return to the UFC. But to me, this is perfect John Jones form, right? He's going to wait fighters out. He's going to wait Tom Aspinall out for as long as he can. He if he eventually fights Ngannou, he waited him out for 2 to 4 years, if not 4 or 5 years, right? By the time he gets in there, he's going to be 39, 40 years old. So, and then John Jones wins those fights. So John Jones' strategy has always paid off. So I don't know if this is a big deal, if this is a big story. I mean, if Ngannou comes back, yeah, it's going to be a big story on its face. But when it comes to fruition, is Ngannou going to be able to really do anything in the heavyweight division? If he gets a one-off, you never know. But I don't think the UFC, after what Ngannou did, is going to let him come back in there with a one-off. They're going to make him beat somebody, right, to get back to the title. He's got to prove that he's still in that form. And then, and then John Jones will make him wait a year, year and a half again for that potential fight. So it is what it is. John Jones seemingly always wins these situations. And eventually, the way things look to me, you got to believe John Jones will hang it up at the right time, right? Because all of a sudden it'll go against him where he'll eventually be the older fighter, which is what's happening with Tom Aspinall. Now, there's one UFC fighter who is backing Dricus du Plessis to shut Khamzat Chimaev's mouth at UFC 319. And this fighter is none other than Kyle Baralho, right? And he says this via Bloody Elbow. Because it can go to Khamzat in the first or second rounds. But then if it gets past those rounds, then it's going to go to du Plessis, which is what a lot of people are saying, right? I'm never going to doubt du Plessis again because he always shuts the doubters' mouths. So let's see. You also had a guy like Robert Whittaker, who's been in there with both of them, kind of say similar things, that he doesn't believe du Plessis can stop the takedowns of Khamzat. When he gets his hands on you, it's trouble. But if du Plessis, makes it through rounds 1 and especially round 2, the fight's going to shift towards du Plessis. And that's not an exact quote. That's just kind of where Robert Whittaker is leaning. And it's the common sense answer, because we really don't know what's going to happen in this fight, right? Especially the fighters. I believe Khamzat Chimaev wins. You know that. You don't need to wait for a prediction, which is already out, of course. You don't need to wait for fight week for me to do the big reveal, okay? It's obvious who I'm going with. Khamzat is number 1 on the do list for a reason, and it will stay that way until he loses. And goodness, if he ever loses, then we got John Jones at number 1. That could be a problem because the guy never fights. But listen, Khamzat's coming in to take the belt in Chicago at UFC 319. It goes down August 16th, if I'm not mistaken. And I really don't care what all these other fighters are saying. The only thing I care about is what's going to happen. And that's going to be Khamzat Chimaev shutting down Dricus du Plessis to take the belt. We have not wavered from that. We have not backed down. That's just the way we see it going. Bottom line. All right, let's jump into the Q&A. If you want to get involved and have us read your comments and break them down and discuss them, be sure to become a subscriber and especially a member. We tend to go to those comments first and foremost. Now, at 49ers Faithful Forever says, his knees held up, laugh out loud, talking about Usman. And Usman with the famous line the other night, telling everyone to shut the heck up because his knees held up. So I hear you, 49ers Faithful Forever. Yeah, I mean, that was the talk, right? I mean, I didn't buy into any of that. I told you in the prediction, we got Buckley, but I would not be surprised if Usman won. I mean, this is a bad dude. He's not quite done yet, and that's obvious now. He's going to get a fight up, and if he wins that fight, he gets a title shot. If not a title shot right now, but the division is deep, and as deep as it's always been, if not the deepest we've ever seen. Miami Chico, okay, MIA in the house. He says, you said Buckley was going to win. You cost me my hard-earned money, you bum. And I take that personally, Miami Chico, right? Because I love Miami people. That's my people, right? Born and raised down there. Not in Miami, but Hollywood, close enough. It's all the same, right? Miami, Fort Lauderdale, it is what it is. But listen, as I always say, this is my opinion. Don't take what I say seriously. This is just me giving you some insight and my opinion as to who I think is going to win the fight. If you put your money up, that's your money. That's on you. That's not on me, right? There's many people you can watch in terms of picks. This season has been rough in the main event too, 9-11. I wouldn't be putting money up on anything I say in the main event because it's been a struggle this year. Now, for the length of the whole card, we're like, what, plus a 52 or something like that on the year. Not midway yet, so we're right on pace for our goal of plus 100 by the end of the year. So, at the end of the day, we're 7-5 on this card. Still a winning night for us, but that's your money. At Alpha Tip says Buck, uh, as the favorite sounds nice, right? Negative 260. Man, Usman getting old and Buck on the way up. Stylistically, Usman needs to take a beating pretty much to win and come back when Buck is tired. But man, Usman is on gear, so I'll stay away. Yeah, and obviously this is coming before the fight where we said Joaquin Buckley will dominate Kamaru Usman. We were obviously wrong on this one, but breaking the fight down really well. Yeah, I'll stay away is the right thing to do when you're not sure, because that was a fight that, even what you said didn't happen the way you thought it would happen. The bottom line is Usman went in there and controlled Buckley for basically 4 rounds and just held on in the fifth to get a dominant win. No win bonus though, which is crazy. At Ring Raw, definitely a longtime subscriber, says Buckley is so one-dimensional and his ground game does not exist. Exactly right. He swings like a wild man and his IQ is questionable. He had a puncher's chance at best. You know better. So Reem Raw being the voice of reason on this podcast saying I knew better, and I probably did, and that's Reem Raw is right here because this has been the tough part of this season. As when I say this season, I mean 2025, the entire year, because each season is 1 year. I mean, it never ends. But I did know better. This is a tough part with you got Oliveira versus Topuria coming up. You've had a lot of fights this year where there's someone I like. Like I was wrong on O'Malley and Dvalishvili. But looking back, I should have not taken O'Malley, right? Based on the fight we've already seen. But sometimes I get stuck going for my favorite fighters. And of course, in the main event, the longer you do this, the more the fighters you know, of course. And I'm getting stuck taking fighters I like instead of rationalizing what's actually going to happen. And that's exactly why we're 9-11 on the year. It's been rough. Make no mistake about it. At Gio, I believe, says, I hope Kopylov wins this fight. And this is UFC 317 preview or prediction, right? Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. Saying, I hope Kopylov wins. Paulo Costa desperately needs a win himself. He's only lost to the best. So we forget that with Paulo Costa. We think, oh, Paulo Costa's done now because these guys climb the ladder and they can't get the job done at the highest level. But the bottom line is Paulo Costa is far from done. And Trey, longtime subscriber too, says, what did I tell you, Chris? Yeah, and I know a lot of people told me, right? But if I listened to what people said, I wouldn't be going with Hamza over Du Plessis. It used to be everybody's for Hamza. Now you got the haters rising up, speaking louder. I don't listen to what people say. You guys should know that about me, and that's what you should like. Is I don't, make moves based off what people say. I make moves based off of what I believe is going to happen. And what I believe is going to happen doesn't always happen, right? Obviously, we saw this week with Joaquin Buckley. So it is what it is, but we're going to keep doing our thing. We got some tough picks coming up in the future weeks and some situations, again, like Oliveira, who I like, versus Topuria. Will I learn my lesson? That'll be the talk of UFC 317. We'll see. But that's what we got. That's what we got. For now, it's your boy Chris Cross. I hope you have a great day, and God bless. As always, peace.